All right, joining us to explore the impact that political interference can have on the work of government, we're now joined by governance expert Professor Buhle Dube virtually. A very good evening to you, Prof. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the late edition.
Thank you.
Now, first of all, we've just heard ANC Secretary General Fiile Mbalula having called on President Ramaphosa to act on these serious allegations. Now, from a governance perspective, just how significant is it when a party Secretary General publicly calls out and calls for action against his own ministers and MPs?
It's what was expected to be done, because the party couldn't be seen to be, aligning with criminal elements or alleged criminal elements. So it was expected that the party should be seen to be calling for a restoration of the rule of law, to be calling for an investigation into these issues. However, sentiments that are concerned are sentiments that are centered around, the concern that was raised about protocol being breached. Those who are feeling that perhaps General Mkhwanazi should not have gone the route he went. He should have explored other means of expressing what he needed to express. However, if you look at our history of corruption and our history of embracing the concept of whistleblowers, you then understand that General Mkhwanazi can be understood to have been not only reporting as a general in this matter, but also reporting as a whistleblower, as it were.
Now, Mbalula also mentioned that the ANC must ensure the rule of law stands above interference, intimidation, or abuse of power. In your assessment, Prof, is this principle currently upheld in practice within South Africa's political and governance landscape?
The issue is we need to move away from mere rhetoric into action, where we stop preaching things and start practicing them.
Yes.
The rot is so deep. There have been so many commissions of inquiry, but the actual outcome out of that is very, very disappointing, because we don't see a follow-up with prosecution and possibly convictions for those who are involved in those criminal tendencies. It's running away from me now. But the consequences for such is that if these are allowed, if they're not addressed the way they're supposed to be addressed, you end up creating a shadow state. In other words, you end up with an underground system where individuals are able to corrupt politicians, gain power, and manipulate or milk the state coffers, and create their own systems, from judges to prosecutors to police officers, and they're in charge of the entire country. And this affects a whole lot of other services that the ordinary members of the public need to be given by the state.
In as much as it may affect, the police minister and other high-ranking state officials, but then it does have broader implications for the executive and parliament. I mean, President Ramaphosa himself said that he will deal with these allegations when he comes back from the BRICS summit. So all eyes, I suppose, are on him to see how he will deal decisively with this. So the question is, what does it mean then for him and, for President Ramaphosa's leadership, especially within the context of the GNU, where stability and credibility are paramount? And if the president does not act, and this is very important, Prof, if it does not act decisively in this situation, what precedent does it set for governance and anti-corruption efforts in South Africa?
If there's not decisive action from the part of the president, that would be setting a very, very bad precedent, especially because, remember, not so long ago, we're dealing with his own issues around the Phala issue.
Yes.
And if this is left unattended, it will send the message that it's okay to pursue corruption and maladministration and to hijack state institutions. There are no consequences. What it will do is we're going to see a brain drain, as people will leave state entities where involvement in those state entities would actually cause danger to their lives. You've seen recently the killings of auditors, where we turned an otherwise benign field of expertise into a high risk jobs. So now it's no longer safe for auditors, because if they start digging and coming up with evidence of wrongdoings, they get killed. So if this is not handled the right way, it will cost the ANC, it will cost President Ramaphosa, because the GNU the partners in the GNU are calling for consequence management. They are calling for those who are implicated to be dealt with. They are calling for prosecution to investigation and prosecution to follow. They are calling for the suspension of the minister. The least that you can expect is that the minister who's implicated should be suspended, and there must be a process to deal with those dockets that are alleged to be sitting somewhere as part of the diversion of these state processes.
And as much as the GNU partners are calling for consequence management, as you've correctly alluded to, but then do you view Mbalula's call as a genuine push for accountability, or could it be interpreted as political maneuvering to protect the ANC's image in a very delicate GNU environment or context?
At this level, it does come out as political posturing, trying to handle the damage control, as it were. The real action that the country is looking for is what will President Ramaphosa do when he comes in? What state machinery is he going to unroll is he going to roll out to deal with this particular matter, especially the protection of General Mkhwanazi and all those who are working with him? Because he did mention that his life is in danger, and he did say that he himself personally is a trained operator. He knows how to defend himself. How about the ordinary men and women on the street who are not trained to do things like that?
Right. Prof, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for your analysis.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that was governance expert Professor Buhle Dube joining us virtually to talk about the story that is developing. Well, in as much as it broke about, slightly over 24 hours ago, it still will be a talking point in the next few days and possibly in the next few weeks, and just to talk about the impact of political interference in the work of government.